I am so excited to be talking to you today. For anyone who's watching, this is Jenny Offal, who wrote Weather, which I read last month, which was so incredible. And I have been such a fan of hers since I read her children's book, Sparky. And I also loved Department of Speculation and Last Things. And I am so thrilled to be talking to you today. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
So curious about your style because it feels so different than like any other writing that I've ever read, and how you develop that. I mean, each paragraph almost feels like its own unit.
In between that first book and the second, I started becoming really interested in like, how could I capture more of what thought felt like to me and more of the kind of, I don't know, trains of association that we all have? Because I find that often when I'm thinking about something, I'll be thinking about something in a kind of big picture way. And then the next thing I'm trying to remember that I have to pick up tinfoil at the grocery store. And the next thing I'm remembering a joke that my kid told me this morning and a little bit of a song lyric and all these things that kind of drift in and out. I wanted to see if there was a way to kind of create something that felt truer to that Quicksilver kind of movement of what I think of as like memory and association. So that's how I started thinking about the small little units.
It really, I don't know, it's such an incredible like echo of what thought is like and feeling. I love also about how you write so honestly about relationships and what it is to feel, you know, not always so positive about relationships with partners, children. How do you do that and like stay honest and not, you know, compromise real life relationships?
What's it like to try to write about what I think of as like the whole continuum of emotion? I mean, I feel like I say sometimes to my students, you know, have you ever been in a situation where it's very much a like mixed state of emotions? And I bet as an actor that you think about this too. It's like, if you've ever been to a funeral where someone, something funny happens and you immediately are in this very strange situation where people are laughing in the middle of being sad. I'm always really looking for those moments, those kind of dense, I think Delillo called them dense anatomies of feeling. And when I find them, I feel like, to me, that's where I find truth, you know, because it isn't all one thing or the other usually.
Right. And also I always love that, like in other languages where there's emotions that don't exist in your language. And
I love that.
Realize, yeah, how specific emotion can get.
Yes.
That loneliness is sort of related to kind of how the book ends, which, I mean, I don't want to spoiler it, but you talk about this, the core delusion kind of is the way the book leaves off. And why was that where you wanted to leave audiences?
You know, one of the questions she sort of is asking herself towards the beginning of the book is like, I already take care of all these people. Am I supposed to now worry about the whole world?
Right.
And what does it feel like? What does it feel like to keep thinking about not just yourself and your family and your friends, but also to think about strangers? And we're obviously living in a moment in time right now where we're all thinking collectively in a kind of interesting way. And so that's why I wanted to land there. And I wanted to land in a moment that was kind of, I hope, surprising, like that she didn't start out at that point of feeling like those distinctions could be collapsed between maybe friend and stranger or here and there, but she gets closer to that as the book goes on.
What were the unintended implications of like what you were talking about around climate that you feel like are relevant to what we're living through now?
I was doing all this research for Weather about disaster psychology. And one of the things that I came across, which really came back to me a lot during the pandemic, was that this idea of the normalcy bias, or the incredulity response is another name for it, which is just that when there's a disaster, our first impulse is to not believe that it's a disaster. You know, our brains are pattern making and pattern recognizing machines. And so when we're in a situation, the first thing we do, if it's unfamiliar, is we try to match it to something that's happened before. So I had a strange feeling with this of having rehearsed a slightly different disaster And then maybe being a little bit quicker to believe that this was really happening because of that.
And there's something also in the pandemic. I mean, there's so many things that feel like things that could impact our attitude toward climate change after, like the way no one really likes wearing a mask all the time, that thinking about air quality coming, or the fact that people who live in polluted areas are more susceptible, or that, that it is possible for everyone not to travel in cars or airplanes for a while. Like, what do you think the storytelling component is that can take these moments that everyone is universally experiencing right now and like turning it into actual change in behavior later?
I guess what I'm hoping, I'll just say for myself, is that I really do like to travel. And that for me has always been kind of the Achilles heel about like wondering, okay, how do I live more in line with my beliefs? Like, and then I'm going to hop on a plane and, obviously the irony of traveling around on planes to talk about my novel about climate change. It's been good to kind of have that paring back of like how much of it is necessary and how much of it was kind of just being caught up in the hamster wheel of like what you're expected to do and what people want you to do.
I'm so happy to talk to you. Thank you so much for talking.
Thank you so much. This has been really fun.